Hey, welcome to lecture number 25. This is where we're going to talk about Japan. But before we do that, let's pull up the map of Asia, do a quickie review. Here we go. We all know what's up at the top of the map. And if you said Russia, you are correct. Good. We have talked about this giant thing. This, of course, is China. And China claims this little thing down here. Who remembers? Who remembers? I'm listing. You're right. That is Taiwan. That is Taiwan. Okay, so we have Russia, China, Taiwan. Over here, we have Mongolia, close ally with China, where China gets lots of raw materials. And we took a look at the whoops, let's not get that C in there, the 5 stands. Now remember, there are actually 7 stands. Down here we have Pakistan and Afghanistan, but these are the 5 that we taught together. K's are on top, Kazakhstan and Kyrgyzstan. T's are on the bottom, Turkmenistan, Tajikistan, and oozing down between all of them is Uzbekistan. Okay. Let's see, we also have some C's that will be on your test. Let's get that thing out of the way. We have this thing over here, which is the C of, you're right, C of Japan. Because, hey, here's Japan right next to it. That's what we'll be talking about just a little bit today. All right, so Sea of Japan. What ocean do we have out here? If you said Pacific, you are absolutely correct. Okay, let's scroll down a little bit. And we have another sea down here. Who remembers what this big thing is? You're right, it's south of China, and it is a sea, so it must be the South China Sea. And then over here, we have a giant ocean. All of this is the Indian Ocean, okay? Named after India, which is right here. But we haven't got to that part yet. So, all right, there's just a quick little look at what we've learned so far. Let's scroll back up again and take a look at Japan. You will notice Japan is a bunch of islands. Okay, so you know where that is. Let's pull up some notes and spend just a little bit of time looking at some notes on Japan. Okay, I told you they were islands. Yeah, over 6,000 of these islands. However, there are 5 main ones. This is where most of the land mass is. This is where most of the people live. And how many of these people? Yeah, about 120 million people. That's a lot of people. Okay, so Japan is about the size of California. California is about 33 million, and Japan crams in 120 million people. Well, it's even tighter than that, because about 3/4 of Japan, you can't build anything on, okay? It's extremely mountainous terrain. So that 120 million people, you are mostly going to find scattered along the coast on kind of the coastal plain, making Japan one of the most densely populated, urbanized countries in the world. And as you would expect, most of them do live in cities, particularly in Tokyo. Tokyo is absolutely huge, and it's been there for a long time. First time I flew into Tokyo after an enormous, must have been 12, 14-hour flight. We were so glad to get there. And we got out and thought, oh, good, just get me to a hotel. I want to lay down and go to sleep. No, we had an hour-and-a-half bus ride from the airport, which was built, of course, later. And just to get from the airport to our hotel in Tokyo, an hour-and-a-half. Okay. This city is huge. They have so little land that they are constantly making new land. Much of the waste that isn't recycled, most of their garbage goes into new landfill along the coast. Much of Tokyo Bay is filled with newly created land. They mix it with dirt and rock and that kind of stuff. But yeah, they're constantly making new land because they have so little of it. Japanese economy is one of the most advanced in the world. Okay, here's the gross domestic product down here. Check out this number. Okay, 5.8 trillion, and of course we learned about per capita, 47,000 per capita, which is pretty good. This 5.8 trillion makes it like the fourth in the world. All right, this is extremely impressive for a country that is so small, that has very few resources, which I will talk about in talk about right now. They have no resources. They have no oil, they have no iron ore, they have no copper, they have no resources. And yet they are the fourth largest GDP in the world. They must be doing something right, which we'll talk about in just a minute. Let's take a quick look at agriculture. Of their land, only less than 2% is good for agriculture. I'm sorry, 12%. They can't grow a lot. They have to import huge amounts of food. However, they are islands, and they do have lots and lots of fishing. For this little country, fourth in tonnage caught of fish. A big tourist thing is go down to the Tokyo fish market. I went down and visited that like 4 in the morning, and the fishermen are unloading their catch the day before, and the chefs are down there checking out the different fish, and they're bidding on these giant tuna that were caught. Really kind of a fascinating place, and I couldn't believe the prices that some of that fish was going for. So how do they do it? How does Japan be such a modern, technologically oriented world? Fourth in the world. Okay, this is a huge manufacturer. What are they doing right when they have tiny land, no resources? Well, 3 things they've got going for them. First of all, they are extremely well educated. Okay, these people go to school like crazy, and their schools are top drawer. American schools, we usually go 180 days a year. The Japanese regularly go for 210 days per year. And their school day is a little bit longer than ours too. However, it doesn't end there. After the regular school day, they go to the clubs. Everybody's expected to be in a club. When I was visiting there, I got to spend some time in their schools, and so I went to check out the clubs afterwards, and they had everything. They had homemaking clubs, they had cooking clubs, they had judo clubs, they had this, what's it called, where they fight with sticks. It's kind of out of my head right now, but they had a girls' stick fighting club, and oh my gosh, these girls were really into it. I wasn't going to mess with them. The judo club, they had this hard as nails little instructor was working with these guys, and I used to do a little judo, and you and me, okay. And he's a short little guy, and I'm 6'3", and so we grappled. As soon as he saw me go into the proper grappling stance, he knew that I knew a little bit. But he was very gracious. He let me throw him down, and then just to make sure that everyone knew who was boss, he took me and flattened me easily. It was kind of fun. Education is top drawer, and it is top priority. I interviewed a Japanese principal one time, and I asked him about discipline in his school. Did they have discipline problems? And he just looked perplexed. And he says, no. And I said, oh, come on. Some of your kids must have gotten in trouble at some point. And then, yeah, he said, well, oh, yeah, just last year, we had 2 kids that got in huge amount of trouble. No, okay, what did they do? He said they were working outside jobs. What? These kids had outside jobs and they got in trouble for it. Yeah. In Japan, your job as a student is to be a student and to work your tail off and do the very best you can. There is a certain amount of pressure involved. There is a high anxiety level to excel and succeed. In fact, one of the problems a few years ago that was written about in Japan was suicides, student suicides. The pressure and the competition is so intense that some would not handle it. Okay, well, when that day ends and you've done your club, whatever club it is, lots of students go to Juku. Juku are cram schools. I lived with a Japanese family for a short time, and in the evening, the kid would come home. They would have a dinner together, and then mom would load those kids in the car. It was kind of peculiar. She had three kids. Usually don't have that big a family. Drove them to Juku, which was just a private little building. They went up and they were there for about 90 minutes into the evening. This happened to be a math Juku, and they were practicing math. Juku is something that is supposed to give the kids a competitive edge in their all-important career-deciding tests at the end of the equivalent of our high school. Okay, so they are extremely well educated. They are also very hard workers. When we finally ended that huge bus ride into town, it was about 7 o'clock in the evening, and all we wanted to do was go to sleep. But our handlers, our guides, says, "No, can't sleep. If you're going to beat jet lag, what you do is you stay awake until you would normally go to bed at whatever time it is in the country that you just come to. So we're not letting you go to bed till 10 or 11 o'clock tonight. Run upstairs, change your clothes, wash your face, whatever you need to do, and then get right back down here. We're taking you out to dinner. We're keeping you up till 10, 10:30, 11, something like that. We're just all dragging. So go up to the hotel, and we're in downtown Tokyo, and right across the street from my hotel is an office building. And you would think it was the middle of the day. There were workers in there scurrying about, working hard. Came down, they took us out to this really cool Japanese restaurant. And Japanese restaurants often are cloistered into a little private dining rooms. Now, it's not totally private, it's just a partition. But you're not sitting out at an open bunch of tables. It's a bunch of partitioned little rooms. Well, I am tall enough as we walk by, I could look over the partition. And most of those rooms were filled with Japanese businessmen. Socializing, yes, but our guide later explained, yeah, they're socializing, but they're also doing business. Extremely hardworking people. When we finally got back, they finally let us go to sleep. That office building was still lit up. People were still working there. They are extremely hard workers. So you've got well-educated workforce. You've got a very hardworking workforce. They also have a very small military. In the Japanese Constitution, it talks about most of the military simply for defense. Nothing that can be offensive is something that they invest in. It's totally defense. Now, how do you go from offense to defense? What's a defensive jet versus an offensive jet? Who knows? But they have a very small military. They rely on the United States for military protection. So when you have less money to invest, but you have to invest in other things, that money can be invested in something productive. So this has been kind of a blessing to the Japanese economy. Japan is one of the most fascinating countries in the world. If it wasn't for that language, I could live there very, very happily. Good people, industrious people, streets are clean. It's just an amazing, amazing place. What I'm going to encourage you to do now is I want you to go on YouTube. I want you to just YouTube Japan, and you are going to have dozens of YouTube videos on Japan pop up. I'd like you to go ahead and look at one or two. They are extremely interesting. It's going to give you a good idea of Japan. Okay? So I guess that's it for Japan. I could talk about it forever, but I'm not going to at this point. Go ahead and look at a YouTube video on it. So, all right, hey, great. That is the end of 25. Day 26, we have Southeast Asia, Vietnam, Laos, Cambodia, and Thailand. Hey, have a good day.